Hello everyone, glad to be back. Today is the 1st of March, beginning of the spring 2023. Now it's half past 12, middle of the day by Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my channel in which I share latest updates on the news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. There is quite a few very significant developments and news that I'd like to share with you for this moment. But before I start, let me once again emphasize how grateful I am for your time, attention, and support. It truly does mean a lot to me because I'm trying to build the first truly independent channel here in Russia about news and politics. And without your support, it's gonna be impossible to achieve success. So once again, thank you very much. And if you want, guys, and if you can support my work and my channel by PayPal or Patreon. You will see links in the description. That being said, let's talk about news now, and I will start with Greece because probably you already know that midnight train crash happened in Greece, a devastating train crash, and 36 people died and 66 people are injured. Two trains collide. And investigation is conducted now to, gather information what went wrong. But tragic story definitely. I feel sorry for Greece society. So during the day we will probably learn what went wrong, why this incident occurred. Let's continue. Next news about Ukraine and special military operation. RIA Novosti is reporting here that according to statement that aide of Zelensky did made in interview to CNN, Alexander Rodnyansky. According to him, units of Ukrainian armed forces may conduct strategic withdrawal from Bakhmut, from Artyomovsk in near future. So this is probably first official confirmation we have about possibility of withdrawal of Ukrainian armed forces from Bakhmut. As you know, I was predicting this for a long time now, that there were some indications that Zelensky's regime were preparing withdrawal of its forces from Bakhmut, and we have first official confirmation that Zelensky's regime truly considering decision to withdraw from Bakhmut. Probably we will see beginning of the withdrawal of Ukrainian armed forces in next few days, as I predicted in my previous videos. And next line of defense that Ukrainian forces will try to hold is Chisov Yar, around Chisov Yar. But to be honest, I have some doubts that they will be able to hold on Chisov Yar for a much longer time. Chisov Yar will fail fairly soon, and same will happen in Konstantinovka, which is here. And this will allow Russian forces to conduct offensive operations in direction of Liman and Yampol, encircled Seversk, after which basically only defense line, more or less properly prepared defense line Zelensky's regime will have left is Kramatorsk-Slavyansk line here. But as military experts are saying, Kramatorsk-Slavyansk defense line is the weakest one from all defense lines that regime in Kiev did build since 2014. So that's quite significant development. And even though we had a statement, we also had statement from Defense Ministry of Ukraine that they will hold to they will hold their positions in Bakhmut. It's obvious now. It's obvious now that statement of aid of Zelensky, which he made in interview to CNN, so that this statement was addressed to Western society. So that's a preparation of ground, if you want. This statement means much more in this situation. So, yes, we will see beginning of the withdrawal of Ukrainian forces, in my opinion, in next few days. After all, there is no point for Ukrainian armed forces that are inside Bakhmut to get themselves fully encircled, and that's what will happen eventually. Already all roads are under Russian fire control, direct control or Russian control, and it does not make any sense for Ukrainian militaries to stay in Bakhmut and just, fight to the bitter end. Let's continue, and yes, we have information that Kiev is still sending some reinforcements to Bakhmut and Chisov Yar, but I believe this is basically preparation now. We are seeing now preparation of building up a new defense line in and around Chisov Yar, because decisions probably already are made by Zelensky's regime. Otherwise, I just don't see how Zelensky's aide will stated in interview to CNN that they may conduct a strategic withdrawal. And same time, on different Telegram channels, I did see information that Zelensky's regime is sending not just reinforcement but also Western equipment in direction of Chisov Yar. There were some of you did ask me yesterday in comment sections, did I have information that Leopard 2 tanks have been sent to Chisov Yar? I don't have a factual confirmation of this information. I did read about it. Some Telegram channels report that Leopard 2 tanks were sent to Chisov Yar, but I just did not see any. Not photo evidence, not video evidence. So, to be honest, I don't think that they will send the Leopard 2 tanks to Chisov Yar, because probably heads of Ukrainian armed forces understand that they would not be able to hold on Chisov Yar for much longer, and they will use Western-made battle tanks probably to conduct offensive operation in direction of Energodar, Melitopol, Berdyansk, to cut off this land bridge between Crimea and mainland Russia. So, yet again, I'm not military expert, but in my understanding, Zelensky's regime will use Western-made battle tanks and tank formations in general to conduct offensive operation in this direction here in south. It does not make any sense to send those tanks in direction of Chisov Yar. I mean, why? But yet again, who knows, man? Who knows? Let's wait and see. If we receive some photo and video confirmation of arrival of Leopard 2 tanks in Chisov Yar, I will of course share that news with you here in my updates or on my Telegram channel. As you can see on my Telegram channel, I do share plenty of news during the day, because of course I cannot talk about all the news in my video updates. These updates are too long even now. So yes, let's continue. When it comes to general situation on the front line, It's still, we can probably call it stalemate. Stalemate. There are some local battles between the sides, but we don't see any breakthrough from any one side. Exception can be only Bakhmut, because PMC Wagner definitely achieved huge success in previous days, and Bakhmut is now basically encircled, almost fully encircled. So yes, that's the exception. There are some activities in direction of Liman Yampol, but yet again, I believe large-scale offensive operations we will see when Bakhmut become under full Russian control, or at least fully encircled. Maybe even Chisovyar, which will just look at on the map. Man, even this pro-Ukrainian map, it shows that situation for both of these towns are quite critical. Russian side may try to conduct pincer movement and encircle not just Bakhmut but Chisovyar too. So yes, we also had yesterday I did share information on my Telegram channel. Late afternoon, we received information that according to some Telegram channels, I will show you now. According to some Telegram channels, that's it. Ukrainian side strike with two 141 drones, Soviet era drones, airbase in Yeisk, that's a Krasnodar region, and photo evidence has been also published. Russian media, Russian mainstream media did not really talk about this topic, so I assume there was some strikes, but what kind strikes has taken place for sure, but what kind of damage was done, unknown. Some reports are saying that drones were shut down before they reach airfield, but yet again, no way I can confirm this information. We have photo that it's some huge fire erupting in around the airfield, but what has happened in detail, I just don't know. Russian side during the night conducted drone strikes on Ukrainian positions, Ukrainian energo infrastructure and logistics infrastructure, but mainly, as I understand, these drone strikes are used to find out location of air defense systems of Ukraine, and then those air defense systems are, becoming under strike, and this method, this tactic is basically working, as I understand, because in some areas of frontline we are seeing activization of Russian field aviation, Russian tactical aviation, which means that not that many air defense systems have left Zelensky's regime. So yes, let's continue. There's so many news that sometime I'm just forgetting. I have some plan. That's first news, second, third, fifth, 10th, but it's easy to forget when you are talking about tens of different news, and then you have to choose which one is more important. So let's continue now. We have RBK News Agency's report here about statements that in Pentagon was made by Pentagon official Colin Kahl. He's deputy of head of Pentagon, and according to his statements, US's time frame of end of this conflict in Ukraine in a free manner, if I may say this way, because according to Pentagon's official, this conflict may end in 6 months, or this conflict may end in 3 years. Time, it all depends. how successful will be one or other side in its offensive operations. To be honest, you don't have to be high-ranking Pentagon official to make this kind of statement, because it's just obvious. It's just obvious that end of this conflict depends on how successful one or another side will be. But when it comes to time frame, me personally, I find it hard to predict, because I just don't know. This conflict may continue for at least 2 or 3 years more, basically, or it may end. In 2023, in this year. It all depends. I mean, it's hard to predict, truly. Even Pentagon, with all its intelligence and think tanks, cannot say anything with concretics. So let's continue. We have RIA Novosti's report here about statements that head of NATO made, Jens Stoltenberg. And this freak is becoming more and more out of touch with reality, because I don't even remember when he made any adequate statement. And this time he said that relationships between Russia and NATO member states will not be normalized even after this conflict will end in Ukraine. And basically it's up to Western elites, really. If they want to continue anti-Russian policies, then of course relationships will continue to deteriorate. It's obvious. But if Western elites will finally start applying in their policies interests of society of Western states, then relationships between Russia and Western states can be normalized fairly soon. I'm not saying that relationships become friendly. No, because trust is lost for decades to come. I mean, it will take decades to rebuild trust between the sides. But if policies of Western elites will be at least partially based on interests of Western societies, then it will be practical for them to normalize, to make sure that relationships with Russia at least are in a workable condition. Let's continue. We have RIA Novosti's report here about Zelensky's regime's proposal to postpone, not to postpone, but to continue grain deal, so-called grain deal. And Zelensky's regime did send its proposals to Turkey, and Turkey plays kind of middleman between Russian and Ukrainian side in these matters. And I do understand why Zelensky's regime wants to continue this grain deal, but Russian side may have some problems with it, some issues, because we had statements from Russian Foreign Ministry which said that Ukrainian ports that are included in this grain deal may be used by NATO, by the Western states and Ukraine, to send to Ukraine radioactive materials to conduct provocation with use of these radioactive materials. And this kind of statement definitely has some meaning in it, and this meaning is that Moscow probably considering not to continue this grain deal. It will end, this grain deal will end on 18th of March. So now we have statements from Russian Foreign Ministry, and this statement definitely means that Moscow may be reconsidering its participation in this grain deal. Let's see how it will goes. As you remember, a few days ago, Russian Defense Ministry made statement. I did share a video information that, according to intelligence of Russian Defense Ministry, some NATO member states and Zelensky's regime already have prepared provocation on one of the nuclear facilities in Ukraine, and in attempt to then blame Russia. And the Russian Defense Ministry even report that radioactive materials already have been delivered to Ukraine to conduct such a provocation. So it's serious. It's very serious. So if Ukrainian ports were used to deliver those radioactive materials, that's what Russian Foreign Ministry is saying. Then, of course, for Moscow, it does not really make much sense to continue this grain deal to allow Ukraine to send and receive ships in its ports. So let's see how it will go. We have also RIA Novostis report here about this treaty. This treaty about, let me translate it for you. As you remember, Putin announced during his speech before Federal Assembly that Russia will suspend its participation in START treaty. It's a strategic arms reduction treaty, and Putin yesterday signed a law to suspend Russia's participation. Russian parliament already voted for this law, and now it's official. Putin did sign it, and Russia is officially now not anymore participating in this treaty. I did spoke about this before. In my opinion, Western states will probably try to conduct some negotiations about reduction of strategic offensive weapons in near future, but they will demand Chinese participation also. And I don't see how China will agree on that. I just don't see it, man. But yet again, this is geopolitics, man. After all, it's in Russian interests also China to become part of any treaty, really, which will allow, which will give guarantees Russia too that China will, Chinese offensive weapons will, will be under some kind of control. As you know, for 2035, China plans to basically triple its nuclear warheads, number of its nuclear warheads, and this is not good for anybody, really, not for Russia too. So, in some sense, I do see Russian interest if China will participate, and if all nuclear countries will start reducing its nuclear weapon stockpiles and its offensive strategic weapons. But yet again, I don't see how China will agree with any treaty which will tie Beijing's hands to increase the offensive capabilities. Let's continue. We have TASS News Agency. How long this video is already? 24 minutes. Oh, it's good. This video may not be as long as the previous ones. So we have TASS News Agency here with a statement from Russian Prime Minister Mishustin, Mikhail Mishustin, who said that all spendings on needs of special military operations should be open, so that there will be no questions about how money is spent and how effectively money is spent. And I do applaud this statement, because statement on its own, it's good, absolutely. And let's see how this statement will be implemented, because when it comes to implementation, then I do have some questions. When I see this statement and then this one here, this is also TASS news agency is reporting that Russian Treasury will conduct, let me read it for you. The Federal Treasury will conduct inspections of the Russian Ministry of Defense in 4 key areas as a part of special military operation in Ukraine. This was stated by head of Federal Treasury, Roman Artuchin, and there will be inspections in terms of how was money was spent on personal gear for military personnel, on logistics, and basically, as I said, I do applaud this decision. But yet again, let's see how all these decisions will be implemented, because there are some questions. I have some questions. After all, since Putin became president of Russia, it's already 2 decades, more. So, Russian defense budget, for example, Russian defense budget did rise year after year, and we can say that average defense budget of Russian armed forces, Russian Federation, was approximately $50 billion. So in 2 decades, let's say 2 decades, in 2 decades, Russian defense budget was approximately $1 trillion, isn't it? And I have a question: where is the money? Where is the money, though? $1 trillion is a huge amount of money for Russian Federation, for any country really, and for Russian Federation also, of course. And I have questions about spendings of those funds, because in the beginning of special military operation, and even now, we are seeing when ordinary people are trying to collect some money and buy some drones or some personal gear for soldiers and send it to the front. Why you have to do this kind of stuff when in previous 20 years you receive $1 trillion? Army did receive $1 trillion, and now situation is, as I understand, better than it was like few months ago, especially in the beginning of the special military operation. But still, questions. I have questions now. Why warehouses were not full with everything that army needed? Why? $1 trillion is a huge amount of money, and I hope there will be investigation. How it's supposed to be done of spendings of Russian Defense Ministry, and I hope everyone will be punished who may be involved in any corruption. So yet again, time will tell. But when I see this news, I was thinking, did they listen to my updates, man? Because I did not expect this kind of statements from head of treasury or from prime minister. But it's good, if they finally realizing that something is really wrong with some directions, let's deal with it, for God's sake, man. And let's talk about it openly. It's all good. Let's fight corruption, for God's sake, because corruption is destroying Russia from within. Corruption and corrupt officials are killing Russia from inside. Let's continue. This is Kommersant newspaper publication. So we have this publication based on statements of President of Serbia, Aleksandar Vučić, who said that Western leaders did say when they talked to Vučić that they are involved, Western states are involved in conflict in Ukraine. And this is open secret, isn't it? I mean, everyone knows that Western states are involved, NATO are actively involved. But yet again, I mean, this plausible deniability plays its part. And, they are able to say that, what, we are not involved, we are just helping Ukraine to defend itself. But everyone knows, man, any military expert in the West will say that Western equipment that have been sent in Ukraine, especially modern equipment like HIMARS systems, those systems need to be operated, and maintenance crew for those systems have to be trained personnel who has years of experience. And there is no way that the Ukrainian personnel did learn how to deal with these systems in 2, 3, 4, or 5 months. It's just impossible. It's obvious that Western countries are involved in war against Russia. But yet again, as I said many times before, what they are doing is they are putting on leave officers and other personnel that then becoming on payroll of some PMCs, Western PMCs, and that's how they are sent to Ukraine, like PMC mercenaries. That gives West plausible deniability, but come on, man, we all know that West is fighting Russia, and they won't defeat Russia, destroy Russia, but it will not happen. Western elites are mistaken. Their think tanks are, making big mistakes in the analytics, and as a result, policies of Western elites are also based on wrong assumptions, and that's why they are making mistake after mistake. Though, let's continue. RIA Novosti is reporting, as you know, President of Lukashenko is in China now, and he will have meetings with Chinese leadership. And we have information here that Chinese experts say that this visit is a big deal because this visit has much importance because Beijing will learn Belarus's position in terms of peace negotiations between Russia and Ukraine. And as you know, China just a few days ago presented its not peace plan, but its vision about principles that peace negotiations may be conducted. It was 12-point document. But in my opinion, and that's my opinion, only I didn't see anything like this in other channels or, media outlets. In my opinion, Minsk and Beijing may conduct some negotiations about deliveries of Chinese military equipment to Belarus with right to re-export those weapons. So what may happen, basically, in my opinion, I would not be surprised, at least, if this will happen. China and Belarus may sign some deals about supplies of drones, artillery, and the rest of it, and then Belarus will transfer those weapons to Russia. And China can still say that, China is not part of this conflict. China is not sending to Russia any offensive military equipment. And that's the plausible deniability yet again in play. So let's see. That's why I think this meeting, this visit of Lukashenko in Belarus is important. And same time, I believe Lukashenko may deliver to China message from Moscow, some message from Moscow, because yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, Lavrov did visit India. So Lukashenko is in China, most probably with message from Moscow, and Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov is in India. Two main players in Indo-Pacific region, and probably Moscow trying to achieve at least understanding from Beijing and New Delhi, at least if not open support, then understanding about something, what Moscow may do in coming days or weeks. That's what I think. When I was analyzing this information, I did think that probably Moscow will deliver some information to Delhi, to Indian leadership and Chinese leadership, in order to uh, receive the understanding, so that they would not be surprised once Moscow will conduct uh, some operations. It may be large-scale offensive operation. It may be something else. I don't know what it can be, but that's idea that I come up with when I was analyzing all this stuff. And same time, of course, I do believe that it may happen. China and Belarus may sign some contracts about deliveries of military equipment, and then Belarus may transfer those weapons to Russia. And this way, China can say that, what, we are not sending to Russia any weapons. And formally, that will be true, but yet again, plausible deniability plays both ways. That's how it is. So a few more news, and this is it for today's update. We have statement from head of Russian VTB Bank, one of the biggest banks in Russia, and Andrei Kostin stated that in this year, in 2023, Russian economy will rise little bit. Russian GDP will rise little bit, but in next year will be much better situation. Basically, he is repeating what International Monetary Fund stated just a few weeks ago, and also Russian Central Bank. Russian Central Bank's prediction was much more conservative compared to predictions of International Monetary Fund. But still, everyone except Moody's. I mean, you remember yesterday I did share with you predictions of Moody's, which was like too negative. Moody's was predicting that Russia GDP will lose 3% in 2023, which does not make any sense from any point of view. And yes, probably head of VTB made this statement in to address Moody's yesterday's announcement. And yes, even though I'm quite critical towards statements of officials, I'm living in Russia, and I'm seeing what is happening, and I have all reasons to believe that this year Russian economy at least will not fall, and from next year Russian economy will start rising. Probably that's logical to me, because Russian companies are now opening new routes to operate, learning new ways, finding new partners, because after all, the world is much bigger place than Western countries. And once these new communication routes will be fully developed, then we will have all reason to believe that economical activity will go up again, will rise again, and eventually it will influence GDP, of course, and GDP will start rise. But yet again, I mean, you know, and this is gonna be last news for today's update. Kommersant newspaper also reporting that since the 2023, you may not believe this, but since the beginning of 2023, wealth of Russian billionaires rise around $10.4 billion. What you gonna say, man? And we have some numbers here. Richest man in Russia is Potanin, Vladimir Potanin, according to Bloomberg. He is head of Nornickel, Russian company, and he has $28.5 billion. On second place is Leonid Michelson. He is head of Novatech company, and his wealth is 25.1 billion. And on the third place, head of HNLMK Group, Vladimir Lisin, he has $20.8 billion. So yes, man, all crises, for some strange reasons, man, any crisis is very good for billionaires and so-called elites, because they becoming more and more rich when ordinary citizens have to deal with the issues. Life for us becoming harder, but for so-called elites and billionaires, life is getting better and better. And look at this, man. Crisis? What crisis? They didn't give a damn about crisis, man. They become rich on 10 billion in 2 months, man. January, February, their wealth rise more than 10 billion. It's crazy, though. It's crazy. It's not supposed to be like that, but it is what it is. So this is it for now. If there is some big developments, of course I will make another update. But if not, then I hope you find this video interesting, and if so, please hit that like button, leave some commentary about any topic you like, and if you can, please share links to my videos or my channel with your friends on Telegram, Facebook, Twitter, or any other platform that you are active on. That will help me to reach a wider audience. Also, if you have opportunity and if you want to, you can support my channel through PayPal or Patreon. You will see links under this video. So have a nice day, and take care. See you soon.